This week on Christian World News, a seismic shift in global Christianity. Regions that were once mission fields, now becoming the mission force. Meet the new wave of missionaries from Asia, Africa, and South America.
Plus, he's one of the most celebrated missionaries in Christianity. Legends surround St. Patrick. Now, a new movie separates the man from the myth. The story more amazing than ever.
And we travel to Belfast, where St. Patrick is buried. Why is the patron saint a controversial figure in this divided city? And how might his message of love unify Northern Ireland? Hello everyone, welcome to this special edition of Christian World News. I'm George Thomas. We look at a new missions movement that is shaking the world.
Indeed, and we celebrate the life of one of Christianity's greatest missionaries, St. Patrick. I'm Wendy Griffith, and welcome to this special edition of Christian World News.
You know, in the early 1900s, the majority of Christians lived in the West. More than a century later, Christianity has exploded in Asia, Africa, and South America. Not only are those churches thriving, they're also sending missionaries to the four corners of the earth. Take a look. Last month in Brazil, 140,000 people met in 3 stadiums, pledging to make the Great Commission their main ambition. 3 million more watched online, promising to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to every nation.
And we declare today, now is the time for harvest. Now is the season for revival. And every nation on earth will be touched.
Half a world away, Chinese Christians under intense persecution hold 24-hour-a-day secret prayer meetings, crying out for the nations. A similar scene plays out 7,000 miles away in North Africa.
God has put in our heart to be able to send 1,000 missionaries by the year 2025. And I really believe maybe one day America will end up with some Muslims, converts, missionaries coming to reach out to the Muslims there.
It's a far cry from those early days when Western missionary legends like William Carey, Hudson Taylor, and David Livingstone labored decades before seeing the fruits of their labor. Today, missionaries answer that same call. This new generation, however, comes from, among other places, the remote parts of Mongolia, desert sands of the Middle East, and Southeast Asia.
And so before, where you would think of a missionary in the 1900s as pale, white, British folks dressed in somewhat Victorian clothes, that is over now. We have missionaries now that look like everyone.
Their efforts and those of countless others helping fuel the explosive growth of Christianity.
It is true that there is a shift taking place at the moment, and there are less missionaries coming from the United States and Europe, but it doesn't mean for a moment that there are less missionaries.
While the U.S. sends out the highest number of missionaries, more than half of those serving worldwide now come from Asia, Africa, and South America, regions that were once mission fields becoming the mission force.
So from countries that used to be kind of the focus point of mission, they have become the major players in mission.
In this part of Ukraine,
among them the likes of Ukrainian Sergei Rakuba, who is training hundreds of young people to be the next Christian generation spreading the gospel.
The future of the countries of the former Soviet Union is not in the hands of political leaders in the Kremlin or in the presidential palaces of Ukraine, Moldova, or Belarus, but it is in the hands of young Christians who, with a renewed heart, renewed vision and desire, are taking the gospel into contemporary society and influence it for eternity.
For several years, Rakuba's group, Mission Eurasia, has been sending dozens of Russian missionary teams to Mongolia, holding camps for thousands of children, many of whom have never heard the name of Christ.
We are in a remote western part of Mongolia, and it is still one of the most unreached places in the world. Sometimes we think that people around the world know about Jesus, but there are places like this that haven't been touched by the gospel.
To better appreciate the significance of these camps, you have to understand the history of Christianity here in Mongolia. Shortly after the fall of communism, there were only 10 believers in the entire country. Today, some 26 years later, some 60,000 believers are spread across this vast nation.
17-year-old Elena said she got the call to missions at a young age. This is her third visit to Mongolia.
When I was 9 years old, I read a book about a missionary in a foreign country, and since then, I have had this burning desire to share God's love with people.
One place burning with missionary zeal is Africa. The prestigious Pew Research Center found that people who live south of the Sahara Desert and stretching all the way to the tip of Africa are seeking God unlike any other part of the world. Pew predicts that by 2060, Africa will be the most Christian continent. Congregations like Grace Bible Church in Johannesburg, South Africa, taking advantage of the phenomenal growth, sending missionaries across the continent.
We come from a history where things were done for us. People came to us to tell us about Christ. We were the so-called dark continent, and all of that. But we realize history changes.
Scores of missionaries now bringing the gospel back to re-evangelize a secular and often irreligious West.
You're just getting a much more diverse missionary movement now, where people are basically going from everywhere to everywhere. And you're even getting missionaries from Africa and Latin America who are going to Europe, who are going to North America.
So the courage of the African and the Asians are coming into the West should, number one, put us to shame, and then should motivate us that we, the ones who have taken the gospel to the East, now should be not all welcoming, but embracing them.
Dr. Becker says the modern missions movement is thriving as countless from around the world take up the mantle of obeying Jesus' command to make disciples of all nations.
And in some ways, we are back really at that early vision that we find in the book of Acts, where the Holy Spirit is poured forth on men and women from every tribe, every tongue, every nation, and they are sent forth to the ends of the earth to proclaim the gospel of Christ.
Great story, George. Well, since the birth of Christianity, missionaries have risked their lives to carry the gospel of Jesus Christ to distant lands. In the 5th century, Ireland was a treacherous place for outsiders. But one young bishop named Patrick heeded the call of God to preach the gospel in Ireland, and the rest is history. In a new docudrama coming out this week, CBN Films takes a look at Patrick, the saint and the man.
The real man, the real St. Patrick, is far more fascinating than the legend and myth.
Mark Khalifa?
84 details, take one, Mark.
We wanted to tap into the human element, Patrick's humanity, as much as possible, and the struggle that he has, the conflict between Patrick, the man of God, and Patrick, the man. On one hand, Patrick believes that he's come here to spread God's message, but on the other hand, he's facing some very real and dangerous obstacles.
Would that I had the courage to be like Patrick. Every time you come and look at that extraordinary life of his, you learn something else. You get more of the feel of the man. He's obviously a great model and example to Christians everywhere.
Well, coming up, meet the director of I Am Patrick. He tells us why the message of this 5th century saint, well, it is still changing the world today. That story in a moment.
He founded one of the world's largest television ministries.
Welcome, folks, to the 700 Club.
Formed a global relief organization demonstrating God's love in action.
Thank you for helping us.
Established a leading university.
Graduates, flip your tassels!
And became a New York Times best-selling author. Now, Pat Robertson wants to share with you significant insights learned from a lifetime in the Word of God. In his latest book, 10 Laws for Success, Keys to Win in Work, Family, and Finance. you'll discover the laws that govern success and how they can work for you. A real-world guidebook that can revolutionize your life. Call now, 1-800-700-7000, or go to cbn.com to receive Pat Robertson's latest book, 10 Laws for Success.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30. As the world watches from the outside,
it's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back to this special edition of Christian World News. We're celebrating missions, and one of the greatest missionaries of all time, St. Patrick, is the 5th century apostle who evangelized Ireland. This week, CBN Films is releasing a docudrama on Patrick. Jared Anderson wrote, produced, and directed the film. And Jared, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I've got tons of questions for you, but first I want to show everyone a trailer that they will love. Check it out.
Go into all the world and preach the gospel. Who among you heeds the call?
Why would this man put himself in danger among enemies who do not know God?
People thought that this mission was crazy, that his efforts to Christianize Ireland were doomed to failure.
Tell us the secret you know about Patrick.
Things in the past can come back to haunt us.
Take him.
It's time to go.
I'm not finished.
Jared, this looks fascinating. You must be so proud right now.
I'm really excited. I'm really happy with the end result.
Why do we need to be reminded of the story of St. Patrick today, though?
Gosh, millions of people all around the world celebrate this holiday, but no one really knows who the man is. They don't even know why they're celebrating what they're celebrating.
They know they wear green.
They know they drink green beer.
Yeah, right. And if you're in Chicago, the water turns green up there.
Yeah, and the shamrocks and all that stuff. It's crazy.
Well, there's a lot of myths surrounding St. Patrick, right? And you say that the real St. Patrick is far more interesting than the legend even. How so?
I personally, when I stumbled across Patrick's writings from the 5th century and I read them, I was amazed with just this man who followed what he felt like God called him to do. And he went back to Ireland and brought the gospel. And I was just so amazed at just the humanity and the vulnerability in his writings compared to this myth and legend that people have built him up into.
Now, you were actually there on the ground in Ireland with the weather and the beautiful, lush green mountains and valleys that you see pictures of. What did that do for you as a director to be there and have all that to work with as well?
I mean, you can't hope for better than that because you just turn the camera, shoot in this direction, it's beautiful. Turn the camera this direction, it's beautiful. And, we shot all across, in the west of Ireland, and it's just, there's not a lot of structures, so it's like you can really just tell this story, tell this epic story. We have all these epic drone shots, and it was just such a great opportunity to have that.
Yeah, and the quality of acting looks amazing just from the trailer. I cannot wait. And you just gave me some breaking news before we went on. You said that in England and Ireland, I Am Patrick will be on Netflix.
Today on Netflix, I Am Patrick is available in the UK and Ireland regions. And I've been getting all sorts of messages and pictures, seeing it on Netflix, and that's just such a cool, surreal experience.
I can't even imagine. Well, what lessons would you like viewers to draw from St. Patrick's life?
I think it's a simple one, but I think following what you feel like God's calling you to do. Like Patrick, he felt called to go back to Ireland. You know, he was originally, he grew up in Roman Britain, was captured, taken, made a slave in Ireland, escaped, only to, you know, feel God calling him to go back to the people who enslaved him. And that, you know, that's an incredible, you know, ask for God to just be like, go back to these people. But I think even just in our own personal lives, like, what is God calling us to do? No matter how small it is, are we doing it?
Yeah, tell us more about the making of the film. Did you feel God directing you, calling the shots, so to speak?
Yeah, I think there was definitely some moments where I knew God was behind us, you know, and there's one particular instance where we were filming the Paschal fire up, you know, on this little mound, and there's this big, you know, this fire that, you know, legend has it that Patrick lit this. We had to film that, but it was just spitting rain. The wind was just, and they were like, we had these, you know, special effects people in there just for that day. We we couldn't reshoot it. And so I was just like, you know, everybody's like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I said, we'll be fine. It's not gonna rain. And it didn't. It sprinkled a little bit, but we got everything and it looked amazing.
That is so cool because, as we know, it rains a lot in Ireland.
It's known for it.
Well, we are so excited. You know, as one of my colleagues, I'm thrilled for you. This is a dream come true. You've directed many projects, but nothing this big. And perhaps nothing that will have, you know, so far. Of course, what are you, like 32. Okay. I'm sorry to call you out. It's the goatee. It's the goatee. Well, anyway, we're so delighted for you and excited. And I Am Patrick's going to be a huge success. Thanks so much for being with us, Jared.
Thank you for having me.
You can get your tickets to see this inspiring film of the life of St. Patrick. The two-night Fathom event will be in theaters March 17th and 18th. Just go to iampatrick.com to see showtimes and to reserve your seats. Coming up, St. Patrick preached a message of love, so why is Northern Ireland divided over his legacy?
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, you know, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Improve personal finances, maintain a lasting marriage, and achieve success in all you do. With Pat Robertson's dynamic new book, 10 Laws for Success, Keys to Win in Work, Family, and Finance. These supernatural laws of the universe will help you to overcome life's challenges and to accomplish your goals. Transform yourself and revolutionize your life now with Pat Robertson's 10 Laws for Success. Call now or visit cbn.com.
Traditional St. Patrick's Day celebrations are being cancelled in many nations as a precaution against the spread of the coronavirus. It's a day that should be very important to the people of Northern Ireland, but it remains controversial. Dale Hurd explains why from Belfast, Northern Ireland.
St. Patrick may be the patron saint of Ireland, But he did much of his ministry in Northern Ireland, so much so that he even asked to be buried here. But the view of who Patrick is and what he stands for is as divided today in Northern Ireland as the wall that still divides part of Belfast. While many nations celebrate St. Patrick's Day enthusiastically, in Belfast it's complicated, at least for many of the city's British Protestants, who see Patrick as having been hijacked by Catholics.
I think that St. Patrick means probably two different things to two different groups of people.
Johnny McKee is lead pastor at New Life City Church, which sits squarely on Belfast's dividing line. Part of its building in Catholic Belfast, part of it in Protestant Belfast.
The Protestants don't celebrate him because even they view him as green, as Irish, as Ireland, as Catholic. And the Catholics, again, unwittingly, celebrate him as Catholic, even though he was neither, for me, Catholic nor Protestant.
This is the Shankill Road in Belfast, and local legend has it that St. Patrick walked this road during his ministry. But later, it would become a symbol of bloodshed and destruction during the time known as the Troubles. 30 years of fighting between Catholics who wanted to join Ireland and Protestants who wanted to stay British left 3,500 people dead. A peace agreement was finally signed in 1998, and Northern Ireland is healing, but still has a ways to go. Because all of Ireland was once a part of the United Kingdom, that red X-shaped cross in the Union Jack is actually the cross of St. Patrick. But that doesn't seem to impress the Protestant British here.
We would like to think that what Patrick stood for could be a great unifier within our communities. But we've politicized him and we've made him into a religious icon.
Jack McKee, senior pastor at New Life City Church, walks with the cross on some of the same roads that St. Patrick used. He walks for peace and reconciliation between the communities. He walks with former terrorists, now born-again believers who used to fight each other and today worship together.
His message was one of love, was one of hope. People on both sides would accept that. But if he were to be here today, then you could be sure that both sides would want to drag him into their camp, and that perhaps even both sides wouldn't genuinely want to hear what he has to say.
Patrick landed on the coast of Northern Ireland in County Down in the 5th century, and it's near the cathedral at Downpatrick where his remains are believed to be buried. So is Patrick buried here?
He's not buried right underneath that stone, but he's on this hill. If you can imagine this, centuries ago, it was just one of the little hills of Down. He was brought here in 461 and buried on this site.
Patrick, who ministered to violent tribes, would have had a heart for modern Belfast, parts of which remain plagued by hatred, drug abuse, and broken families. But how would Patrick be received if he returned to Belfast today? Pastor Jack has tried carrying the cross on St. Patrick's Day and felt the hostility.
And as I'm walking past with the cross, one of them shouted out, "You're an effing idiot." And I thought to myself, that's so ironic that on St. Patrick's Day, the idiot is the one carrying the cross.
So like parts of the new peaceful Northern Ireland, Patrick still waits to be rehabilitated, to become not only meaningful to Catholics, but to Protestants as well.
As far as I'm concerned, Patrick was a fully committed follower of Jesus Christ. Whether we call him evangelical, whether we call him born again, and his message to all the people, regardless of what camp that they found themselves in, regardless of what kingdom that they identified with, his message to the people was Jesus Christ as the Savior for humanity.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Belfast.
We have more stories about the life of St. Patrick and the upcoming movie on his legacy. You can find them at cbnnews.com. We'll be back right after this.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo, and I want to tell you about a phenomenal book that I just read, 10 Laws for Success by Pat Robertson. See, I firmly believe it can transform your life and the lives of those that you care about. In this book, Pat shares the supernatural secrets he's discovered and shows you the way to a rich and fulfilling life.
In the book, 10 Laws for Success, Pat shares biblical life principles that can put you on a path to purpose, fulfillment, and achievement. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to receive your own copy today. 10 Laws for Success.
This dynamic book is a must-read for anyone who wants to achieve their goals, build a solid financial foundation, and grow in their relationship with God. I highly recommend that you get your own copy of Pat Robertson's latest book, 10 Laws for Success. God bless you.
Welcome back to the show. The new film, I Am Patrick, features John Rhys Davies as the saint in his later years.
So why did this legendary actor of Lord of the Rings fame decide to take on this historic role? Take a look.
To narrate in detail either the whole story of my labors or even parts of it would take a long time.
When looking for the voice of old Patrick, my first person that I wanted was John Rhys Davies.
What are you doing? How many are you doing?
Thousands. They're all going on Facebook, John.
He's Welsh, he's got a great voice. It was kind of a dream come true for me. And then when I met up with him and then we did the voiceover, he just nailed it. He so captured the essence of St. Patrick. And I was like, we have to have him play old Patrick.
Actually, I'm sorry to say that we're actually ready for you. Oh, my God.
I am Patrick because I got lucky enough to be employed on this marvelous project. I was drawn to this project because I love the character of Patrick. I think he's a fascinating modern, and he's a great man. He's the beginnings of Irish literature.
Today is our big day. We're here filming one of the final scenes in the movie. It's just a spectacular sunset, and he's just been an absolute pleasure to deal with all day and true professional.
We're rolling, guys. Camera set. Set. And action!
My latest movie is called I Am Patrick, and you're looking at the older Patrick now. It'll be in movie theaters across America for 2 days on the 17th and 18th of March. I hope to see you there.
That voice.
Yeah, iconic.
He's
He
a
really
Welshman.
is.
You know,
He
I'm
is.
Welsh, so I'm happy that I'm in the same company as him.
You
maybe.
are. Well, folks, remember you can get those tickets at the website iampatrick.com. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week on this special edition of Christian World News.
Until next week, from all of us, goodbye and God bless you.